Good morning, Namaste, Pranam to all brothers and sisters. My subject is medical science and astrology. Today I am going to speak about the destiny in human life. In India, we can find different types of religions and different customs and everything, but different languages also, but we are one. The religion satisfied reason and comprehended both science and philosophy. Science and philosophy recognize religion too. There was no prosecution by a church. No one was compelled to believe anything. Sankhya philosophy openly says that what comes within reason is covered by a large number of laws. There Purusha and a large number of parallel volunteers, each reacting on the other. Whether the law is ultimately one, whether that is identical with what is termed God, Ishvara, whether he is also creator, all these questions transcend reason. There are ways of developing the objective side in the evolution, whereby truths beyond the capacity of reason can be brought within the orbit of awareness. And those who have not or cannot affect such subjective developments must take their statements on trust. If they are so disposed, they can as well reject them. They can also remain in a state of superstition of belief. When the Sankhya philosophy speaks of Adhushta, the unseen and unscrutable factor, in the Purusha as the cause of evolution, they do not post an actual beginning for this evolution. All that it means is that what we call the experienced universe is a combination consisting of law operating on an entry or of an entry reflecting a law. They are definite about the culmination, namely the stage when this law ceases to operate on the entity and when the entity ceases to have any change and movement. This declaration of a final culmination is also a survival of the Buddhistic thought that exerted and a great influences in India. The Mimamsa philosophy was more true to the pre-Buddhistic thought of India and ignored the question of a state for the world, and consequently the question of a culmination also receded into the background in that philosophy. Beginning and end have no absolute values. They have a value only in respect of a known and determined series. So they never spoke of a pure law having no sort of relation to the material entry, nor of a pure material entity free. On the material entity, and the material entity is differences have little relevancy in the context. What is important in the identity of what is now called the law of evolution? In modern science and what is termed Purusha in India philosophy, Indians were never persecuted for their rationalism by a church, and Indian thinkers were never afraid of using the same terms like Purusha and Jiva. Both in the relationistic philosophy like Sankhya and Mimamsa, and in religious literature like the Puranas. Rationalism had a different story in Europe, and modern scientists are like nervous children, frightened with ghost stories and afraid to go to dark corners of the house at night. On account of this antecedent misfortune in European thought, terms like soul or self can find no place in modern science. But when they speak of the law of evolution, they mean just what we mean in Sanskrit by a term like Purusha or Chaitanya. It is for the reason that I had been strongly advocating the awareness of rendering Sanskrit technical terms into words in modern European languages. If there is a law or what we call Purusha Chaitanya controlling evolution, the main line of evolution must be more or less predetermined. At the same time, every stage in this evolutionary process creates a new situation, and this disturbs the exact direction of the evolution. We must make distinction between the ultimate, final, unitary law and the currents of operation of this law. This ultimate law knows also the entire course of the evolution, but no individual line of the operation of the infinite currents of law can know the whole process. Infinity and perfection cannot be predicted of these finite currents. That is why in Mimamsa, omnipotence, omniscience, and perfection are not accepted. By the process of subject developments, it is possible to bring wider and wider fields of the evolution within the awareness of an individual current. On account of this limitation, the whole of the evolutionary process cannot be known, and at the same time, the entire field is not hidden from our awareness. The range of this field depends on the development of the subjective side. When the planetary motion has been determined through a certain law, and when a disturbance to the operation of the law is noticed, further observation ends in the discovery of these distribution factors, namely other planets. We have now come to the state of discovering the ninth planet, Pluto. If there is a law governing evolution. If this law operations throughout the universe, if there is an interaction in the operation of the law in its various currents, certainly observations of the law in the past must enable man to predict the future. If the interaction in the operation of the different currents of the law is universal as is ought to be, if the planet and all the essential, the so long as scientists fight shy of certain fundamental questions relating in the evolution, like its balance and its why, its how, and its whether modern science falls short of the requirements true of science. When science recognizes that there is an orderly evolution designed, controlled, propelled, and guided by an intelligence, it will be found that there is a unity in the operation of the world, in which even the most minute particles in all the planets and other bodies have an equal position with interaction and mutual influences. A future event can be calculated from the past situations with as much as accuracy as a canon in situation with as much accuracy as a cannon ball be discharged to hit a definite point. But if the cannon balls is abstracted in its past, so my attempt is to show that what is called destiny is a fact that can be ascertained scientifically if science will and advise on scientific lines. It is the self-imposed limitations of science by refusing to take cognizance of the certain facts that makes it impossible for science to enter the field of ascertaining destiny and admiring it into science. Thank you very much. If you like my subject, please subscribe it and the bell button switch on. I'll come tomorrow with other subject.